This is a 2-for-1 deal. You help put it up, you got to take it down.
Like I had already taken it down for 4 other houses. I had Gage and his family take down his tree too.
All right, folks, welcome to our initial Griefshare meeting for this session. And what we're going to do is tonight is going to be basically the orientation / registration session, kind of let everybody know kind of how it works, what we're going to be going through, looking at. We do have some forms that we're going to pass out, having everybody, if we can, just fill it in. One of them is a group member agreement. And the reason why we have this filled out is there are some personal things that may be shared here in this meeting. And what we don't want is we don't want a bunch of people, say, oh, did you hear about so-and-so? And I get it. Nobody here probably would do that. But, we just wanted to make sure everybody understands, hey, listen, we're not sharing anything that goes on in the meeting, okay? So that's one of them. And the other one's just a participation form, just your information. We know everybody here, but, we'll go that way. They ask us to do that. So if we can go and pass that out and get those going.
We have the clipboards underneath there?
We do.
The clipboards are. Oh, are they down there?
Well, no, I keep a couple in there in the nursery, but most of them keep stay up here.
I think we're good. We're good.
I'm gonna fill it out for
He's
you.
going out to get his glasses.
Okay, I'll have one here, and one for Anitra.
The one for him
I saw
over
that.
there.
All those years I
Here,
fill out
the
those.
set.
tree
He
school
gets a
trees.
set, and then you get a set
You're
too.
lying. You're full for cookies so much. I don't know what you want me to tell you.
You have a pen? You need a pen?
Pen.
And Marissa, I can help you. And just,
I want my pen back, Mom. Don't walk off my pen. I don't know, but you're
She's
like,
driving.
"Look at my
She'll
pen."
drive off with that, with your pen.
She's sticking in her purse. Yes.
You need a pen? Yeah.
This is green. Yes. It's kind of said by the color of the pen.
That doesn't always mean anything.
I know, it doesn't. I got yelled at the State Department, right? I don't think the State Department is checking the Griefshare. people.
No, okay, perfect. Yep.
Marissa will.
Okay.
You know what? You're gonna be paying on both ones.
Yeah.
Your confidentiality between
You got it. That's fine.
1, 5, 2021.
The first one.
Girl.
To respect the other group members and keep things said within the group. And keep things said within the group confidential.
It's correct.
Exception of your dangerous
Yeah, but I
yourself.
get 11.
While you're filling that out, does anybody want a cup of coffee or a bottle, a cup of water, or some water I get next door?
I would like some wine.
Water? Water to coffee? Coffee?
Oh.
Well, I'm gonna make your 2 coffees.
While
3
you're
copies.
making coffee.
I already got it made, so it's
Oh,
made next door.
yeah.
Yeah? Okay, I'm just gonna make some copies and bring it over.
There you go.
Instances of silence during discussion time will be viewed as okay because it allows everyone time to think before answering. To commit to doing the healing work found in the participant workbook from morning to joy exercises and the briefing workbook. That this is a biblically based and Christ-centered program. Frequently, the topics will be looked at through the lens of the Bible. Everyone is free to ask questions and express feelings, thoughts, concerns, anger, fears, and successful milestones. that everyone is at a different place in his or her grief healing journey,
Yeah, 226.
that facilitators have the right to remove any person from the group who has misrepresented him or herself, like using the group to find a date, group hopper, or a person who has never experienced a loved one's death. That while attending Griefshare, there is a no dating policy among members. If group members understand, they will be cautioned against dating while grieving because the change of emotional focus affects learning and recovery. That they will make a commitment to their grief process and will attend every session in the 13-week cycle and may repeat the cycle 1 to 2 more times. To allow facilitators to use comments made or insights discovered by the member, no name used, as helpful examples for others struggling with grief issues. That if a member ever feels offended by what a facilitator or another participant has said or done, he or she will commit to talking to that person with another person present and work through the offense. This is important and vital. To acknowledge and understand that Griefshare facilitators are not college degree counselors, psychiatrists, or psychologists, but are lay people with a heart for Christ and for his people becoming whole and healed. I agree that I will abide by the group agreement. I realize the importance of respecting these guidelines at all times.
Disagree. No, but let me see that page. Psychic grade. That was cute. Like, it was something that you take from
No, this is an international company that does this, so probably they've had to learn the hard way. Some stuff to include. On the group member agreement, I just read them to her and she was like, what? Because some of them were like no dating within the group, yeah.
Wonder what happened.
And she said,
That's a Google.
what's going on up in Jackson? And I was like, no, Griefshare is an international company, so they probably
That's
learned
a
the hard way.
Google search for later.
True, they probably learned the hard way.
No, it's
What's the date?
Something Fox credit, right?
What's the registration?
Lane,
What's the registration?
$15.
Well, it's $15 to cover the book.
I'll just leave
Where is that on there?
It says registration be right under the signature.
Yeah, because some locations actually charge you to go. It's a suggested donation of $15 per book, but that's what my husband's been announcing. I know you were out of town, that if people couldn't do the 15, to just let us know, the church can help. But the books are actually 15.
You gonna do a book by yourself or you want to do
Email address?
Murray, W. Ever. @gmail.com.
So, that was right, there is a, can be 430.
For sure. For sure. My love and affection towards you. My slave labor. No, it's not 20. What kind of saint did I do? Talking about. I guess that's happening a lot.
Sugar right over there.
What's
You think
rotate?
it's more honey?
Look at this.
On this one right here, if it's multiple, how,
You can just do that. It's done more.
It's not on the 8th. I'm talking about.
We say with fair payment.
Can I take the plastic off this?
If it's really bothering you, yes, go ahead.
Girl.
Anything else you want to add? Anything more about your situation?
Oh, I gotta get now. So water, you want water?
I have my.
You got your water?
I don't like it.
Did you still have your workbook? So that doesn't apply to you.
I'm gonna have it in bed.
The stamping? Yeah.
Stamp with their signature?
Yeah.
That's dangerous. I don't trust that.
Really? We used to do that for grandpa.
That doesn't surprise me.
Well, no, when you do all the concealed weapons classes, you have to sign and.
Yeah.
Here we go.
It's so weird.
Yeah, probably should turn that down. Huh?
I think you can drink the coffee.
Yeah.
Normally they get you a straw, but wait.
Well, I had to fill it in straw.
Oh.
Listen, I'm not listening to the pretty face up here.
Do you think pretty?
Yeah, he did. Are they gonna need their,
That's recorded too.
are you recording? Oh,
Isn't that weird?
do they need this still?
I don't think, not for tonight, no.
The clipboards. You know where the trash can is?
Holy moly. Did you just rip my protective coating
Yeah.
off of my?
She asked if she could.
I asked, and your wife said yes.
Said if it was really bothering her.
That
You
does
take
not-
your coffee black?
Well, you know what? I'm on, my boss and I are on a diet together. She's been forced to do
My boss and I are on a diet together too.
My,
I cannot fit anything I own right now. She's been wearing my clothes. And she's like, no, that's my shirt. She's like, no, it's not anymore. If it stretches, it fits.
Oh.
I like that. Why leggings are the go-to. Exactly.
Yeah. Those are 99-cent leggings. These ones aren't, yeah, that was.
Yeah, but those
for
are-
98 cents at Old Navy, because I was obviously mistagged.
I got this at Kohl's for like, how much you get this for? Like $5? Isn't it? I think this is pretty cool. I'll be honest with you. This is a pretty radical sweater I got here. It's like one step away from a cardigan.
What's the don't say that again.
What, radical?
Don't say that again.
it's being recorded too.
Listen,
You are
It's
so
radical.
funny when you talk kids.
I'm bringing it back. I'm bringing radical back.
No.
Yeah.
No, you're not.
All right, so I think everybody's pretty much done. And you're still working on it, which is fine.
Yeah.
We do have some flyers if you guys want to take a few with you. They do have all of our information printed on it. And there is if you look at the very bottom here, there is a Gmail address for anybody who wants to get more information. Tell them, hey, you can either call the phone number or just email this, and then we'll reply back to that Gmail with any information that they want. So we'll put these down here for you guys to take. Anybody who wants to take some of those with you. Well, we've kind of jumped from the registration form right into the refreshment section of our group here with the coffee and the drinks. But let's do this as we kind of get started. I know most of us know each other, but let's just kind of go around the room real quick. If you guys are okay with it, I'm just looking for a name, and maybe a little bit about you. If you don't want to tell us anything about you, that's okay too. All right, so we'll start back here. Felix, you're on the hot seat. Name, a little something about you.
My name's Felix Mascaro. I just moved down here from Polk County. I work for CFI. I'm 58 years old. I'm 59, excuse me.
Hey, I'll tell you what.
I got 6 sisters and like 5 brothers. My father passed away back in 1979, so I was raised without a father. My mother, she's in Polk County, but my children are down here, my grandkids. I've been kind of a loner all my life, you know. I've even been locked up. But I think God that come back out and trying to do the right thing.
That's it. Yeah, that's right.
And, that's really all I got to say.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you very much. Lois?
My name is Lois Miller. I'm here because God led me here. Praxis is very much of interest to me because parents died. I grew up in an extremely volatile situation, extreme abuse, a lot of secrets that has truly shaped my life. And they died leaving me with a lot of big questions. And I'm having a hard time even today.
Yeah.
I have a really hard time dealing with life because of the way I grew up.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Lois. Marissa, you're up.
My name is Marissa. I am the only child. My mother, it was just me and my mom in Atlanta, and my father wasn't around. So, yeah. And I basically,
Would you be all right with doing the microphone?
sure.
Just because we have some folks watching online, so that way you can just kind of, they can hear you.
Well, again, it was just me and my mother because my father wasn't around. So I guess you can say I was a spoiled child. And my mom, she passed away in 2015. So a while ago, 6 years almost. And I miss her dearly. That's it.
Yeah, good. Jenny? Yeah, because we guess, because if you don't have a microphone on, they can't hear you on the mic.
All right, so, my name is Jenny, and especially, this is something that he hadn't mentioned yet, but when we're doing Griefshare, you can feel free to, like, face each other, or whatever, you don't have to just always face that way.
Yeah, and also, there's never a time when you have to say anything. If you don't feel like, I don't feel like saying anything, absolutely, we're not here to pry stuff out of you. This is all about what you feel, like you want to share and get going, so.
So I have been through some difficult times in my life, like, a lot of you guys know that I had cancer, had stage 4 cancer back in 1998, and had even, known some people that I was fairly close with that had passed away, and had some family members that I was fairly close with that had passed away, but nothing on the scale of losing our son. in 2015. It was a whole other level of grief that I had never experienced before. In fact, after we lost Jacob, Caleb was going through that difficult recovery time that he had to go through. And I remember one time him commenting to me that that even though the cancer was probably the hardest thing that I'd ever been through, that was the hardest thing he'd ever been through at that point. And I said, oh no, the cancer was hard, but at least I knew that I was right with Christ. And if something happened to me, I knew where I was going. So it was different. But losing somebody that close to you that you really, it's a whole nother level. So, and one of the reasons why I'm here tonight is because we have done the Griefshare before, and I know how much it helps. And I also know that there are different components of it that I'm looking forward to doing some parts that maybe I neglected doing before when we went through it. So, maybe some areas that now I'm ready to kind of tackle that maybe I wasn't ready before.
Okay, great. Anitra? No, okay. Kat, you feel up to it?
Have to use
You
that.
have to use the microphone, just, not just tonight while we got something, but my plan is that the folks who are watching online, just because tonight this is an introduction, next week, my plan is to have the folks who are online actually join a Zoom meeting so we can see them and they can see us and they can communicate back and forth with us as well. So that's my plan for next week. So next week, we shouldn't have to use the microphone. You're up.
I'm Kat. In 2018, I lost my brother to a drunk driving accident where my cousin was driving and my two brothers were in the car. One brother survived and the other one didn't.
Thank you, Kat.
My name is Anna Marie, and this is my daughter, Kat. I've had a lot of loss in my life. I lost my mother at a young age. I lost my high school sweetheart in a car or boating accident. And so on and so on. But the loss of my son still hurts.
Yeah.
So, especially going through the trials and everything right now.
Yeah.
It's still 2.5 years, 3 years now.
Yeah.
I have to say that Griefshare helped us tremendously. And I appreciate you guys for putting it on.
Yeah. Thank you, Anne Marie.
I'm Stacy, and I'm here tonight because this is probably just a quick guess, maybe my 12th time of being invited to a Griefshare and never being in place to go.
Yeah.
And knowing that this is vital for me to continue or to pursue in finding myself. I come from a long line of drug addiction and incarceration and bad choices, and struggling with death from a little kid. I have multiple deaths that I've never processed. I don't deal with death well. I have even laughed at funerals because that's the only emotion I could get out without feeling anything I didn't want to feel. I had an uncle that is still unresolved, and it's been 30 years whether he committed suicide or was murdered. I miscarried a child. I actually was induced labor at 4 months pregnant because I was in my active addiction, and for a while didn't know I was pregnant and had to give birth to my child that didn't survive. He was born stillborn. And my dad, after my attempt to be in place and have it together and try responsibility, I abandoned my dad while he was in a nursing home, and he died there without family and by his side. And I had a best friend that overdosed when that was
like our hope and dream was to be this Paul and Silas of the world, to go overtake the world and help people out of addiction. She died at 25 years old. So it's something that I've never dealt with. I am excited to be here, terrified to be here, and grateful to be here all at the same time.
Yeah.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you, Stacy. All right, so kind of as the intro, we'll probably still need that, so you can hold it down there if you don't mind. As the intro, again, the whole idea of this is that we kind of get to a point, and I get the first couple, 3 meetings, where it's probably everybody's still going to be kind of like, I don't know how much I want to share, I don't know how much I want to get into this, and that's completely fine. But as our meetings progress, we'll get to become better friends, and the guards will come down a little bit at a time, and hopefully, obviously, just by sitting here listening to everybody's story, we come from a vast array of backgrounds, a vast array of personal experiences. As my wife said, we lost a son in 2015. In the last, few years, I've buried my dad, I've buried my mom. My mom passed away just a little over a year ago. So all of us understand that, there's the whole idea behind the grief is that we're all experiencing it to some degree or not, and how we handle it, how we deal with it helps us process life and go forward. Okay. So let me ask you a question. How would you define grief? How would you define grief? If I was to say, I want you to tell me what you think grief means. What would you say?
Unanswered questions of the soul.
Okay, so unanswered questions. Okay, so things that have happened, you've got questions about, and you're just like, I don't know where else to get answers to figure those things out. Okay, good. Anybody else?
There's so many one words I could put on that as an answer: numbing, devastating, unfair, horrible.
Right. So those are kind of the effects of grief, right? So grief, as it is defined in the dictionary, is the response to loss, particularly to the loss of someone that has died, to which you had a strong bond or affection to. And, so that rolls back down, your mom, obviously had a strong bond with your mom. And even if it was, sometimes we have bonds with people that, just like, you're saying, that may not have been the strongest of bonds at the end, but there was still a link there. And you're like, I want to get some answers for this brokenness, these links that are in my life. Okay. What we're going to find probably in this class is we're going to find people that are kind of overwhelmed and feeling like they might not even wish to continue Griefshare. You guys have been through Griefshare before. You've been through Griefshare before. Was there a time when you guys came that you were like, I don't want to go back, right? Because it hurt, right? The pain was so. And you guys came to the first Griefshare. it was about a year, right, after your son passed away. So it was very fresh. Honestly, probably one of those deals where it hadn't even really got a chance to heal much. And we're talking about some very deep hurt areas. And so I'm putting this out there now that as we progress in this, there might be some times where you're going to be like, I just don't want to go. But it's in those times you need to push through, be like, no, if I don't, I'm never going to get this resolved. Okay? Because that's going to be a key, is to continue to come back even when we don't feel like it. Okay? So let me go over real quick kind of the session agenda as to how it's going to kind of play out for everybody. What we'll do first is we're going to have an opening session. This is how we get our session going. We get underway. And how we open our sessions will vary depending on, how long our group has been meeting and if we have any newcomers, because same idea, if we have some newcomers, as we get started, we want to introduce them. We want to get to know who they are, kind of get their story a little bit. So that may take a little bit more time, and then there might be just some time where we're just, can I tell you guys, part of the healing of our hearts is getting to know other people and allowing other people to help share some of the burden of our hearts, some of the brokenness. And we learn from one another as we're going through that. So there might be just some time when we're getting started and folks are chatting and talking. We may let that go for a few minutes and just let you guys kind of, get to know each other a little bit better. So that kind of all depends on the, the length of the opening session. What we'll also do in the opening session is we're going to review the From Mourning to Joy exercises from the Griefshare workbook. Now, all of you guys are going to get a Griefshare workbook. And one of the things that are in the Griefshare workbook is a section called From Mourning to Joy. And, and I'll be honest with you, that's a lot easier for a lot of women to fill out than it is for guys, right? Because I said most, I did say most, okay? Did you ever fill out any of them?
No.
No, I didn't think so. So if anybody wants Kat's book, it's basically brand new. But there is some time when you have to just stop, and it's up to you when that is. It might be first thing in the morning, when you're up, when you're drinking your coffee, when you're getting ready for the day, to stop, to look through that, and to do. It's kind of like a devotional where you kind of go through and there's some questions, there's some things to ponder about, think about, and you don't have to fill it out right there. You may look at that and be like, I'm going to think about this throughout the day, and then I can fill it back in the morning, and then read the next section and kind of keep it. But it's very important, if you can, to do that homework when you go home. So we'll kind of go over some of those. Again, understand, if there's some personal stuff in there, nobody's going to take your book and look at it. Okay, if you don't want to share it, don't share it. If there's some dark hidden things in there that you're just like, man, I really don't want to open up about this. No problem. There's absolutely no, regulation on, you don't have to do that at all. And I always like to start with an icebreaker skit. This is Kat's favorite thing, the icebreaker skit. And not a skit, but a question. And sometimes it's a skit. Sometimes what I'll do is, once you kind of get it rolling, I'll have somebody here bring the icebreaker skit or question for the next week. So here it is. Okay. Here's the icebreaker exercise for tonight. When you were a kid, what was your biggest dream? When you were a kid, what was your biggest dream? Okay. Who's going to go first? You're still a kid.
To go to FGCU.
Oh, I'm so sorry. That didn't work out.
I see where this is going.
I had a split dream. One was to be the first woman NFL football player for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the second one was to be the first woman Perry Mason.
Did you want to change your name to Perry Mason?
No, I wanted to be
Perriette?
a lawyer.
We'll call you Perriette Mason. So first pace, okay, so NFL football player and a Perry Mason detective, basically. Okay, good. Anybody else? Marissa?
To be a pediatrician.
A pediatrician. That's still a great dream to have, right? No, you're done? You're like, nope, I don't want nothing to do with kids anymore. Those little ankle biters.
It's patient.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but what if God does a miracle?
That's true.
Then it's all said, right? Like, okay, God does a miracle, I'm going back to school. All right, good. All right, anybody else? Jenny?
Did we need the microphone?
You don't have to right now. I think we're talking all right. I think we're talking loud enough.
I wanted to be a pilot,
A pilot.
preferably in the military. That dream was shot down when I found out that since I did not have good vision,
Perfect vision.
could not happen.
You can't have glasses?
Yeah.
I can.
They could have done it now because you can do surgery to repair the issues, but
I wanted to be a journalist that traveled the world.
wow. So you're going into those scary places, the like war-torn areas, and do or not so much that kind
I
of.
traveled when I was younger like that.
Yeah.
So I wanted to write about it.
Oh, I see.
Carry it on. But
Gotcha. Awesome.
So more like National Geographic. Okay.
Lois? Oh, go ahead. Felix?
I wanted to be a baseball player.
Were you good when you were younger?
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. No kidding. That's awesome.
I wanted to be a vet.
A vet. Yeah. That's awesome.
Pediatrician and a vet.
So did I. I wanted to be a vet until my mom was like, and my parents were like, you know how many years of school you got to go to be a vet? And I'm like, no. They're like 8, like a doctor. I'm like, all right, how about I just play football? So I wanted to play football. Amen. When I was a young person, I wanted to be. I mean, I wanted to be a lot of things, but yeah, veterinarian was first, and then a football player. So, Anitra, you wanted to be a homeowner in Sanford, Florida. Nailed it. Okay. Well, good. All right. So that's kind of how we get to know each other. We kind of throw out some questions and answer it. So those are great things to get to know each other that you wouldn't necessarily know about another person. And then there's going to be a video that plays, and the video is actually put on by the people who make this study, and it's a man and woman team. They're married, and they'll tell their story throughout the video. Again, they understand grief well. Most put it that way. And then afterwards, we will discuss the video. There are discussion questions that are carefully designed to stimulate conversation into the key themes of the weekly video. One thing that we will ask is that as we're discussing the questions, let's try to keep it within the subject that we're talking about that night. Because if not, we get on these rabbit trails and we're off, and we never know where we end up. So, if you guys ever see me doing this, okay, this means reel it in, folks. We're getting a little bit off topic here, okay? All right, and then we'll wrap it up. The wrap up is kind of to end it with a hopeful and encouraging note before we head out of here. So, okay. Now, Jenny, your lucky day. Can you take a few minutes to walk us through the journal, the Griefshare journal, workbooks? Huh? No.
Okay,
We're starting it next week.
okay. I missed that part.
We're receiving our syllabus.
Okay, so
I don't even know where the syllabus are for my class.
just use a blank one?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that right?
Unless you want to show off yours.
Alright.
I promise I'll do my homework this time.
And you don't need to, honestly.
If I can get these two to do their homework,
Yeah.
a modern miracle is happening.
Yeah. And I mean, it's helpful for me to write in my book, but I know other people that just read them and reflect on them. So, it's kind of up to you. It'll be your book. But so you'll get a book like this, and it will be yours that you can write in. Like he said, nobody's going to, we're not going to collect the books or anything at the end. It'll be yours. So in the very beginning here, it does have similar to what he was just explaining to you about how it works with the video, the group discussion, the workbook, and how there are all 3 components that tie together. To me, that's one thing that makes this type of a group really effective, is because it's not just one. You have the group discussion, which is always really good, but then you have the professional, like he said, the people that do this video, not only the husband and wife did they experience loss, but they always have a lot of professionals in the videos too, giving you things that we wouldn't necessarily think about, but then you also have the take-home work so that you're trying to process during the week till the next one. Earlier, when I said that I'm planning on going a little bit deeper, because like he said, there might be some topics that we talk about that you just don't feel like you're ready to touch on, I would encourage you to still come the next week. And maybe reflect on it as much as you can. But like I know from experience, there were things that I didn't really process that well the last time we went through this, but I feel like I'm at a better place this time. So I think that now that we're going through this again, I'll probably be to the point where I can work on that. So just keep that in mind, that it's okay and it's normal. And a lot of the things that when you guys filled out that group participation form, that's in here too. About, no dating within the group. That's a weird joke.
No dating. Or
Um,
no dating within the group or something.
About maintaining confidentiality, being teachable, all that stuff that was on that sheet, it's in here for you guys as well. This is really good too.
Obviously, if you're already a couple, we're not asking you to sever
Right.
your relationship.
But this is good too, and this is in the beginning of the book. This is the website that has a lot of good information as well. And you can actually create a My Griefshare account, which I think I left those at home, the sheet but it's really basic and you could go to this. But they really do have a lot of helpful things on there. One of them is you can sign up for a year of daily emails. They're very brief, they're like a paragraph. They were really, really helpful too. Practical stuff. So just a suggestion, because I did that the first time too. But this has a lot of other stuff that you can look on there. Some typical questions that people might have. So this is all in the beginning. I'm just kind of showing you guys, so when you get this, you might want to read through there. This is a little bit more about the experts that they'll have on the videos, so that these aren't just random people with no credentials, like they're actually people that know what they're talking about. So anyway, there's several pages because throughout the videos, they'll have snippets with different ones. Okay, so then this will be what we'll start next week with session 1. So we will do what he said in the session here, and then watch the video, and then ideally you take your book home. And I use this as like a devotional, and I do a little bit like each day of the week. But it just walks you through. This part, you could actually take notes during the video if you like. Some people don't like doing that. Yeah. So, and then like this will all go with the video that we'll watch next week, so that would make sense. And then this is the from morning to joy exercises. This is the part that you would use, and they even have it broken down to 5 days. So you just take a chunk, and do that as kind of your homework. And it's like he said, it's just things to help you process it, and to help you apply what you're learning. And then it'll have at the end my weekly grief work. That it's really just a way for you to keep track of how you're doing week by week. After we lost Jacob, one of the things that the grief counselor that I saw pointed out to me that has stuck with me all this time, sometimes you feel like you're not growing, not getting past some things. And she said, Jenny, if you can look back a month, am I doing better than I was a month ago? 6 months, am I doing better in this area than I was 6 months ago? A year? Then it may not seem like it in the day by day, but if you can look back and say, okay, I am better than I was 6 months ago, then you know that the progress may be slow, but at least you're going forward, So that's kind of the idea behind this page too, is that each week you're looking at things and thinking, okay, am I at least doing better than I was last week? So that's pretty much it.
Okay, and so again, just to help us offset the cost, the books are $15 each. If you can't afford it, I get it, no problem, we'll help cover it. But if you can do it, that would be helpful. Again, that's the cost to us from the website. So obviously we're not marking anything up. We've got 5 books tonight. So did you guys just want to try to do one book? Just share one book?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you've got your book. So that leaves, you guys with the 4 extras. And then we can, as other people come, we'll probably go ahead and order a few extras just in case some people will come and visit with us. So, okay. Very good. Thank you, Jenny. Appreciate it. question, one thing that we had talked about, anybody here feel like they could share one thing that is their biggest challenge in the grief journey? Anybody want to share, like, this is probably my biggest challenge? Go ahead.
Forgiveness of my family.
Good.
Because there was a lot of family involved.
Yeah.
In the actual.
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. It is messy. Yeah. So, yeah, good. And that is perfect. That's a great example of what we have to do. We have to come to the point where we're willing to deal with forgiveness. Because forgiveness is a huge part of handling guilt, our grief in our lives, So, anybody else?
Releasing myself from the responsibility of other people's
Of other people's thoughts?
deaths.
Oh, deaths. Okay. Yeah. Well, and I actually just mentioned that, but guilt
Yes.
is huge, right? And one of the things that we deal with a lot is, what could I have done differently? This is my fault because, and we'll deal with guilt. That's one of the sessions, is dealing just with guilt, because guilt is such a huge part of dealing with areas of our own lives. And I've shared this many times, but one of the things that hit me when I found my son laying in the middle of that road was the guilt of all the missed opportunities I had as a dad. And, it was, I'll be honest with you, it was almost crippling. I almost fell over with the guilt. I don't mind sharing this, but it was like, you hear people say that, when you're getting ready to die, pass away, you have, like your life flashes before you, all the things, you've been involved in your life. Well, for me, it wasn't that. For me, it was literally all the missed opportunities I had with my son. It was like just images flashing through my head. It was rough. But so I had to come to a point where I was willing to deal with that guilt. And and honestly, right? We still probably deal with some of the guilt in our lives where we wish we would have done that, and the what ifs and the why nots, But if we don't bring that stuff to a head and be like, I'm going to deal with this. I'm not going to allow this thing to follow me all the days of my life, because that's what we'd love to do, right? It would love to ruin our lives. Guilt, grief would love to just ruin our lives and have us sitting in a pity party somewhere feeling sorry for ourselves. The whole idea behind this is that we deal with our grief and we begin to move on. And we'll find out, again, we're going to find out many times throughout this experience that we go through that everybody deals with grief differently. I deal with grief far differently than my wife does. When this all happened, I took my grief, put it in a box, and I put it on a shelf, because I had my wife was, in dire straits. We had a son that was in the hospital, for weeks, and then rehab, and so I couldn't take the time to deal with it. I had to be the leader who was like, come on. I'm going to help us get through this. And so that's, unfortunately, many times, guys and many other people, guys are not exclusively great, but boxing up our emotions and putting them on a shelf somewhere and be like, I'll deal with this some other time. How many people are like that? Okay. Yeah. So it's not just guys. So a lot of people deal with their emotions, their grief, exactly like that. I'm just gonna put it in the pretty little package, and I'm gonna put it up on a shelf somewhere, and I'll deal with it later. Problem is, the problem is, what we're here?
Later never comes.
Because we never go get it off the shelf. It's still sitting right there where we put it at 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years ago. Okay. So, yeah.
That's actually kind of when you said forgiveness and you said the guilt, is because we're 5 years out, I think my answer has changed probably multiple times over that 5 years of what I thought was the hardest point, kind of based on where I was at that time. But I think at this point in time, my latest struggle is boxing it and putting it away, even though I haven't had that lately. Because mentally, I'm like, it's been 5 years. Like
Should be past this by
I
now.
should be past this.
Right.
So
Right.
when something comes up, I've just been like, okay, I'm just gonna shove that to the back and just try to plow forward. But then that's not working out well either.
Right,
That happens.
right.
That's what happens with me.
Yeah.
I let it out too much. And it affects the other.
Yeah.
My other kids.
And, and again, we're back to this point. Is there a wrong way to handle grief? No, there's not. I think that there are ways we can maybe handle things a little better from time to time, right? I mean, one thing that you'll find out, you guys are a great example. My wife and I are an example that generally when a couple lose a child, the divorce rate is like 78%. And that's the reason, the entire reason is because people handle grief so differently. And and they just can't get it together, And listen, I'll be honest with you, if you're okay with me being honest, is that there are still times we do not handle it the same, 5 years out, there are still difficult days and times when you're just, it's heavy on your heart, and holidays are difficult, because you think about, what could have been, and you'd be like, I should be past that by now. Maybe we should. Maybe it's because we haven't dealt with it correctly is the reason why we haven't kind of overcome that area yet, and listen, one thing we have to understand is, and my wife has brought this up, even just recently, is that a lot of times we don't want to get past it because if we have good days, we think that we're forgetting that person. Okay. And that's not the case at all. I had a pastor friend of mine who also lost a son, and I was talking to him about it, and this was a couple of years ago. And he said, this is how I've found what I've found to be true. It may not be true in everybody's case, but it is in our case, where the men of the relationship want to move forward, want to plow forward. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. Where the mom in the relationship is like, hang on, I don't want to go forward. If I go forward, they're going to forget my baby. And they're going to forget who my baby is. They're going to forget all about, in our case, they're going to forget about Jacob, And so a lot of times mom is the one going, don't forget my baby. This is my baby, And so again, all comes back to how differently people handle grief. Okay. And so again, I'm going to reiterate this. Is there a wrong way to handle it? No. Are there ways that we can handle it better? Yes. And that's what this class is all about. And helping us to handle it better. Okay. All right. And I'm going to go over it just real quick. Everybody was fine with signing the little affidavit there saying, hey, we're not going to talk about this outside. Okay. Not that you can't talk about your friends in here, but let's leave the hard stuff that we're talking about. Let's leave it right in here, so people don't feel like they can't be, confided in when they come. Okay. Anybody, I had this in here, we kind of did it a little bit already, but anybody here want to share just a testimony of how this helped last time you went through it?
Last time going through this, no, I know I'm still struggling with my son's loss of my son.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize how much from my younger years, losing my mother at such a young age. I never dealt with it.
Yeah.
And it helped me with that.
Good, good.
Gave me some peace to now have to deal with. Because after mother passed, my grandmother raised me, and I found her passed. She had passed away in her bed.
Yeah.
And there's some of that stuff that I didn't really deal with. This really helped me with that.
Yeah.
And I was focusing on that to get through. And that's why I wanted to do it a second time, so I can deal with my sons.
Yeah. Absolutely. Very good, very good. Anybody else?
I think the first time that you and I did it before we led the group here, I think the first one that we went to, when we walked away, I was like, I don't feel alone. Like, I feel like, okay. We're not like weird or like that. There are actually other people that have experienced this.
Right.
And that helped me a lot, just knowing that, like, does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and just, you guys may not know but this is how, they came into our lives and into the church, was because my wife was working at the high school, and Anna Marie came in there just a few days after the loss of her son. And, as you guys can imagine, not doing well. And my wife was able to, kind of step from behind the desk and talk to her and find out what was going on. And so, a friendship was kindled through grief, through the loss of our sons. Our sons who never met each other, who knows, they may be best friends in heaven, we don't know.
Yep.
But, that's how this relationship even began, was because of, somebody stepping out of the comfort zone and sharing and being willing to expose their own hurts to minister to another person's needs. So, very good. Anna Marie, let me ask you a question. How important do you think it is to, I'm not going to ask your daughter who never did any of these, how important do you think it was to complete the Mornings of Joy exercises?
I think it's really important. I want to focus more on it
Yeah.
than I did last time. It was fresh, new that I lost my son.
Right.
And I was still dealing with our family,
Yeah.
the dynamics,
Yeah.
which is a whole nother part of grief.
Right.
And the stress, court hearings, and all of that.
Yeah.
Which is still going on.
Yeah.
But it's important because in a lot of the videos and some of the stuff that they have talked about, it really does help.
Yeah.
And, it really gives meaning, as what you said. It's like you feel like you're not alone.
Yeah.
And some of the things that you may have done in the past due to grief that other people talk about. I mean, I know one of the things they said, the first thing not to do is do any drastic measures in your
right.
life.
Yeah.
Right after my son passed away, my husband tore the house, tore the bathrooms out, tore everything out. It's still gone.
And there they are.
It was his part of, he's like, we went in with a caulk gun, and by the time he was,
Time he put it down, there was no floor.
there was nothing, literally. But that was his anger and aggression getting it out. But when they talk about that in some of the videos, I'm like, well, yeah, there's something I
It
did
makes
wrong.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
it does.
I wish maybe when I was a young girl, I would have done some of the stuff I did, which I know now I did that.
Yeah.
Because I lost my mom.
Sure.
So.
Yeah.
And that's why I was saying, oh, well, that makes sense now
Yeah.
too.
Because the hope of this class is not just to help us deal with our grief, but that as we grow, we can help other people. That's kind of be our heart's cry is, God, help me get better so that I can help other people. Because there are people, no doubt, we were so amazed when this happened in our family to find out how many other people had lost children. You guys know that I go around and I share our story at high schools and facilities, that are people that are struggling with addictions and things. And it's amazing. Every time I do one, somebody will walk up and tell me, I lost my sister, I lost my brother because of a drunk driver, I lost, and so there's a lot of people out there that are hurting, that if we can just say, God, help heal me, that God, just like you're talking about, some things that you've learned, that you'll be able to be like, hey, listen, I know you just lost somebody, let me give you a couple pointers here. Don't tear out your bathrooms. It'll
Don't
be-
buy cars.
Yeah.
Don't buy
Don't buy
cars.
cars.
Don't
No,
buy
exactly.
paintings.
Yeah. See, listen, and that's, and we will, and we'll get to that. But in those drastic times when you're hurting so bad, the one thing to say is don't go buy a new house, don't go buy cars, because you're trying to substitute pain by bringing stuff on and doing things, and it never works. All you do is get yourself in a debt and trouble, and then you're like, now I got more trouble to deal with, So, okay, good. Thank you very much, Anna Marie. So let me ask you this question, and we're just going to be shorter tonight, just because we're just kind of doing the introduction. But what 3 things does every human being need to live?
Air, water.
You must go to PSI High. Okay, air, water, food. Now, we cannot eliminate any of those things, correct? Just as God has provided those 3 essentials for our survival, Griefshare provides 3 essentials for us as we journey together: the video, the group discussion, and the workbook exercises. Okay, and I'm just going to encourage everyone here to do all 3 parts. Don't pull one part out like, I'm just going to watch a video, I'll get enough out of it. Like I know you guys are going to share a book. At least still go over the questions. Think about them. Consider them. Maybe you can one of you guys can just take a piece of paper and write your answers down on another piece of paper. So I get it. Listen, my wife, she made me do that too. Amen. She's thrifty. That's what I call my wife, thrifty. Okay. So anyway, again, please make sure of course, we'll watch the video presentations here. We'll do the group discussions here, but the workbook exercises are very, very important. Okay. Each component is intertwined and important to the healing process. All right. Now, let me ask, does anybody have any questions about what we're going to do? Yeah, go ahead. I can see you ramping up for a question. No?
Yes. Are we doing any role playing?
No, we don't really do any role playing. This is really just getting honest with ourselves and dealing with what's in our own heart and life. It's not, there's no acting out or role playing or anything like that. It's just really down to earth, just be yourself, come as who you are, and, let God help us. So, yeah.
To go along with her question, is there any activities like, for example, balloon releases or like
Yes.
letters?
So at the end of our last one, we got balloons and we, biodegradable balloons, make sure that we do biodegradable. Amen. But, and then what we did was wrote on the balloons, like a note to whoever, and then we release those balloons. We can do it that way. At the very end, like the last session, what we'd like to do, like the last one, I don't remember what happened to me. Something happened or I couldn't be there, so you guys went on your own to do it. But we have everybody bring something special that they want to reflect on from the person who they're grieving, and there's multiple people. You can just bring one thing, and maybe it's a picture of that person. This is my person that I'm grieving, and they meant so much to me. This is the reason why they meant so much, or I feel like I finally got to the point where I can forgive them and go on, or whatever the case may be. That's going to be lesson 13. That may be right now, I'll be honest with you, that might be overwhelming. You might be like, nope, ain't gonna happen. Okay, but by the time we hit lesson 13, hopefully we're at a little better place to where we're like, you know what, I'm just ready to get past this. I'm just ready to get on and keep moving, you know. So yes, there definitely is. That's the very last session. Okay, lesson 13. Okay, any other questions? Input? Okay, we normally don't. I'm gonna make sure we have coffee and water. You know, but other than that, probably not any refreshments. If you guys are okay with that? Okay. Okay. All right. Good. Yeah.
And doing the activities because we're not in a class to process, is there availability or do we try to make it to the next class before if we were like really need to process at that moment, like with you or Pastor?
What do you mean?
Saying like if I'm dealing with a situation and I'm stuck because this assignment has brought up emotions or whatever, like to text you. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
Reach out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
absolutely here to help. Yeah, through all of it. Yeah, that's you know, as you know, again, we're basically just providing the place where this ministry is going to minister to people's lives.
Right.
Okay, and so yeah, we're absolutely available anytime to help you work through it. And yeah, and again, even if you're stuck on one area, keep coming because no doubt they're going to hit that area again, and you know, and little bit by little bit, you'll have to work your way through it. So, but yeah, absolutely, just keep coming, and I'm you know, it'll be fine. It's not as dramatic as I'm making it sound. You know, if you just yeah, exactly. Anna Marie's like, I made it, you can make it.
Exactly.
And you're back for more.
So, okay, anybody else? Any questions or input?
I just like how the
Yeah,
sessions
you
were
did,
on
you
practical
did.
stuff. Like one of the sessions,
Good.
Stacy is actually on being stuck,
Okay.
Yeah, stuck in your grease. Yeah, grief,
being
yeah.
stuck. One of them is on anger.
Grease, just stuck in
Like
grease,
the
yeah.
whole session is on anger. That was another one that was like when she was talking about that, it was like, oh, that the one on anger, it was like, oh,
Yeah, I had no problem with that one.
that's why we can get that way. It was like, oh, but they're just practical, and then like how to process it better, you know?
I have to say though, going as what you mentioned about divorce and how many people get divorced, I think if I had not taken this class, I would not have made it through.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No.
It's been rough.
Yeah.
It still is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right. You know what
Still
though?
is.
But you're making it.
Yeah.
You know, and listen, because anybody who hasn't been through that, it's extremely. I mean, again, 78% of people who lose a child tragically end up in divorce. You know, so if anybody can be like, hey, we made it through. We got scars. We got bumps. We might even have some open scabs right now, but we're making it little bit by little bit. So just real quick, let me just go over the title of each one of the first one is called, Is This Normal? So that's a good one to start out with because a lot of times people feel like, is this normal to feel this way after I've lost somebody? Okay, so that's basically the beginning. The second one is the challenges of grief. Then you have the journey of grief, part 1, the journey of grief, part 2. And again, this is a great illustration about how grief works in our life. And, we have some illustrations that'll help us to kind of help us to narrow down where we're at in our grief journey. And it's really good. You guys understand, okay? Grief in your relationships. Why? Okay? Why? I'm going to highlight that one for you. Why? Okay? 7, guilt and anger. 8, complicating factors. Anybody who's been through it, you know that there are some complicating factors to grief, okay? So that's 8. 9, stuck. 10, Lessons on grief 1, 11 lessons on grief 2, 12 heaven. That sounds like a good one. And lesson 13, what do I live for now? All right, so those are all the ones that we will go through. And again, this is a 13-week course. So, let's plan on being here every Tuesday night. I'm not, the last one we did, because you're kind of the first time, we kind of bounced it around to meet everybody's needs, but we're just going to set it on a Tuesday night. If you can make it, please be here. If you can't, please be here. Okay, and we'll just keep it that way. I think it makes it a little easier for everybody. Everybody knows every Tuesday night that's where I'm going to be. Okay, lock in your calendar. All right. Anybody have any questions or input before we close down?
7 p.m. every Tuesday?
7 p.m. Yeah. We're just doing it at 7 p.m. to get folks out here a little bit earlier. And it does take about each lesson is about an hour and a half. So yeah. Some people here go to bed early. So
7:30, I'm going to bed. Still not up early.
yeah.
I got up at the same time today as you. No, you didn't.
And this will help.
This helped a lot though, because when we first came, the first one, we weren't speaking.
Let me tell you, God's helped them a lot.
Yes.
So
Yes.
praise God. That's good. All right, well, let's go ahead and close in prayer. And let's, again, if you've got a little bit of time, you guys want to stick around for a few minutes, we're going to tear down some of the Christmas decorations. If not, we're going to do it Thursday night. So if you've got some time, we'll take it. If you got to get home, completely understand. So, all right, let's go ahead and close in prayer. Father, we thank you tonight just for the privilege and the opportunity to get together and to work on the areas of grief in our lives. And Father, I ask you tonight that as we go throughout this week and prepare for next week, that you would help us, Lord God, to be prepared to deal with these areas of our lives as we would surrender them to you. God, we ask you for healing in our hearts and lives. God, and we'll give you all the glory and the honor. In Jesus' name, amen. Praise God, we are dismissed this evening.
So one of the reasons, if you guys want to take some of these flyers, is like what